everyone, Chris here, and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about the books I read between October 26th and November 1st. First up, I read Paris and Peril by Catherine Woodfine, and I gave this book 3.75 stars. This book fulfilled the prompt of book set in, translated from, or the author is from the country I chose for my Epcot World Showcase, and I chose France, and this book is set in Paris. This is the first book in a spin-off series of the Sinclair's Mystery series, and I can't really talk about what this book is about without spoiling that series, so I'm going to tell you what that series is about. So in the first book in the Sinclair's Mystery series, we're following Sophie, who is starting a new job at Sinclair's department stores on its grand opening. In the first book, she is accused of stealing a very valuable clockwork sparrow. And with the help of some new friends, she has to clear her name. This series follows the events of the 4 books in the Sinclair's Mystery series, and we are following characters from that series in this book. So while Sinclair's department store is in London, this book is set in Paris, and we're following characters, like I said, from the Sinclair's Mystery series in Paris. But I don't want to say too much about the characters or what's going on, because this, while being a spin-off series, directly ties to events that happened in the Sinclair department mysteries, so I don't want to spoil anything for you. I did enjoy this book, though not as much as the Sinclair's Mystery series, but I think at some point I want to reread both that series and this one physically, because I've been listening to the audiobooks and I'm wondering if I physically read them, if I would enjoy them more. These are middle grade historical fiction mysteries, and I really enjoy the atmosphere and the characters and the relationships between the characters. I also really enjoy the mysteries, and I had a good time continuing on with these characters that we got to know from the Sinclair's Mystery series. Next up, I read The Silent Thaw by Aaron Hunter, and I gave this book 5 stars. This book fulfilled the prompt highest rated for Phase 10 Choose in my TBR, and middle grade or audiobook for the Magical Hopathon. So this is the second book in the 7th arc of 6 in the Warrior series, and if you're new to my channel, Warriors is a series that follows forest cats who live in clans and have to try to coexist. Obviously, I can't say anything about this book because we're in the 7th arc. Do you know how much I could easily spoil just by mentioning some of the goings-on in this book? I will say that the mystery that is going on in this arc continues extremely well in this book, and it was interesting to see the characters trying to figure out what is going on. I am really enjoying the new characters that we have met and the twist of what is going on in this book and the obstacles that the characters have to overcome. This book left on a massive cliffhanger, and once I got done with this, I immediately wanted to pick up book 3, which I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, my feeling after reading the first book in this arc was that it left on a cliffhanger, and I really wanted to pick up book 2. So the cliffhangers are really good in this arc, and I'm still really enjoying the series. I am enjoying this arc more than arc 6, because I think so far arc 6 has been my least favorite arc. But I'm really enjoying this, and like I said, I'm really enjoying the new characters and the mystery that they're trying to solve. Next up, I read The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood by Howard Pyle, and I gave this book 2.5 stars. This book fulfilled the prompt of swoon-worthy main character for Magical Hopathon. So this is a classic, and it is the story of Robin Hood and his merry men, and we're basically following their journey, how they came to be, and the adventures they went on. So I was disappointed with this book. Robin Hood, the Disney movie, is my favorite Disney movie ever. When I was a kid, I would watch that movie from beginning to end, rewind the VHS because I am old enough to have watched it on VHS, and start from the beginning. I adored that movie. So I was so excited to read the source material because I was looking forward to seeing the similarities between the movie I loved and the source material, because I was looking forward to finding out where Disney drew their inspiration from, and I just didn't get anything out of this book. I didn't care. I spent a lot of time bored, and it was like each chapter was a section, and they didn't necessarily have a flow. It was like a bunch of little short stories about Robin Hood and his merry men that happened to them, but didn't necessarily flow from one chapter to another, and I just found it to be a little bit disjointed sometimes, and I could be really into something, but then they would jump, and I was very frustrated by that, and frustrated with the lack of connection between that and the Disney movie, which left me disappointed. And I think I had a lot higher expectations for this, and when it didn't meet my expectations, I was disappointed. So this wasn't my favorite classic or my favorite book that I read this month, and I wouldn't say I regret reading it because at least now I know, but again, it wasn't my favorite. Next up, I read Twice Magic by Cressida Cowell, and I gave this book 4 stars, and this book fulfilled the prompt, latest haul for Phase 10 chooses my TBR. So this book is the second book in the Wizards of Once series, and in this series, we're following a wizard named Czar and a warrior named Wish. And in the first book, we get to see Czar, who hasn't come into his magic yet, but should have, tried to capture a witch so he can steal their magic. So he ends up traveling to the Forbidden Bad Woods in the hopes of catching this witch. He sets a trap, but ends up capturing Wish instead. Now, warriors and wizards have been warned off of each other, so Wish and Czar aren't exactly happy to be anywhere near one another. But despite their differences, they end up having to work together as something is rising that will threaten them both. So, I think I would have enjoyed this book more had I listened to the audiobook, because I listened to the audiobook for the first book and absolutely adored it. And then with this book, I physically read it because I did not have access to the audiobook, and I think that brought my enjoyment down. And I think if I hadn't listened to the audiobook for book 1, I probably would have enjoyed this more, but knowing what I was missing bummed me out. So my plan is for the third one to do both, actually, is to listen to the audiobook while reading along, because the physical book has pages like this that have like extra details, and you don't get that in the audiobook, but the voice acting is so superb in the audiobook that I feel like the best way to consume these books would be to read along while listening to the audiobook. Either way, I'm still enjoying the series and seeing what Czar and Wish are getting up to and how things are playing out for them and how they're growing as characters throughout the books, because I definitely saw a growth in their characters between the beginning of book 1 and the end of book 2. So I'm definitely going to continue on with this series, and I'm really excited to spend more time with Czar and Wish. Next up, I read A Sprinkle of Sorcery by Michelle Harrison, and I gave this book 4 stars. This book fulfills the prompt booktube fave for Magical Hopathon. So this is the second book in the A Pinch of Magic series, and in that series we're following 3 sisters, Fliss, Betty, and Charlie. And in the first book, they end up getting 3 magical items that have been passed down through their family, one for each of them, and they learn about this curse that means they can never leave the island that they're on, or they will be dead by the sunset of the following day. And Betty has always wanted to leave her island and travel the world, so she decides that she is going to set out to break this curse. In this book, we're seeing the 3 sisters go on another adventure. And I was very curious when I picked this book up how the story was going to continue, because I definitely feel like you could read the first book as a standalone, because there weren't a lot of plot threads at the end of the first book that I felt needed to be wrapped up. So I was really, really curious when I picked this up if I was going to enjoy it as much as I did the first one and what the story was going to be. And I can safely tell you I definitely did. I love getting to see the relationship between Fliss, Betty, and Charlie, and how that has grown and changed in book 2 as compared to book 1 after everything they went through in book 1. These are really, really cute middle grades, and I love the magical items and how they use them to help them on both the adventure in the first book and then their adventure in this one. I liked some of the characters we got to meet in this book, and I definitely plan to check out book 3 in this series at some point, because the family vibes in this book with the sisters' relationship is something I love in my books, so I will definitely be continuing on with the series. And lastly, I read Beneath the Weeping Clouds by Jennifer Lynn Alvarez, and I gave this book 4.25 stars. This book fulfilled the prompt favorite trope for Phase 10 chooses my TBR, and multiple POVs for the Magical Hopathon. This is the third and final book in the Riders of the Realm trilogy, and in this trilogy, we're following 2 points of view. And the first is a young boy named Rocky who is part of the Sandwind clan, and the second is a wild Pegasi named Echo Frost. And in the first book, Echo Frost and her herd are looking for a new safe place to live, and they happen to come across Rocky's land. And Rocky and his people were not expecting to see wild Pegasi because they didn't think any more wild Pegasi exist. They have tamed Pegasi that they ride and use as part of their army, And Rocky's clan wants to capture Echo Frost's herd so that they can add Pegasi to their army. And we kind of get to see their adventures play out from there as Rocky and Echo Frost's world collide. And this obviously wraps up their story. I absolutely love the series. I love getting to see Rocky and Echo Frost's relationship develop and how, again, that is played out in this book. I love getting to see the differences in the way they view the world because one is human and one is a Pegasi, and they have very different ways of looking at things. I love the relationship between Echo Frost and her herd and how that has grown and changed throughout the books. The same can be said for Rocky and his clan and the people he interacts with, and how his relationships there have grown and changed throughout this book. This was just a really enjoyable series, and I would definitely read more books set in this world if Jennifer Lynn Alvarez wrote them. Outside of the Garden Herd series, which she's also written and is set in this universe, and I think comes before these books, and I actually think I should have read that first. But oh well, what can be done? I read this trilogy first, so it is what it is, but I really enjoyed this series and would love more of Echo Frost, Rocky, and their adventures. So these are some of the books I read between October 26th and November 1st. All of my social media, including my Discord, is linked below if you'd like to come and chat with me about any of them. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me a croissant emoji. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!